possible for us to hold these workshops. A few reminders before we start. Please keep your microphones on mute and please keep your cameras turned off. No abusive language will be tolerated. Please do not post any personal information in the chat box. Please, it says, please save any questions for the end of the workshop, but I will, when I brief about this workshop, I will tell more about the questions in a few minutes. An evaluation link will be sent out at the end, and we really appreciate your feedback. So please give us your feedback. So I'll be starting now, and I want to introduce our speaker for today, Margaret. Margaret is, when I went and read her profile on LinkedIn, I was blown away. I think she's doing such an amazing job by helping people, by helping newcomers, and she has started a revolution. That's what I believe. I think not many people think of things like this, but Margaret is actually the president at the ATB Black Team Members Network, and she's also a manager at ATB. She has experience with various banks in her tenure, and she's actually helping newcomers with a lot of insights and resources. So without much ado, I will hand it over to Margaret. And this workshop, so Margaret did not want to do a presentation. And she's right, it becomes too dry. She wants it to be very interactive. So please ask questions right from the beginning. And if you have any questions, please type them in the chat box and I will read them to Margaret and she can answer your questions. So she will talk a little bit about herself, and we were just joking before we started the session. She said if she would start talking about herself, she would talk for hours, but she does not want to talk only about herself. She wants to help newcomers. So please feel free to ask any questions and type them in the chat box. So over to you, Margaret.
Thank you, Meena. I want you all to imagine this, visualize what I'm about to say. You're currently in your country. Imagine that you are in your various countries, and you are from a family where your father has 6 wives and 30 children, and each wife has their own room, one room with 6 children each. Some other siblings shared one single room, and mother has a little bed at the corner of the room, while we children sleep on the mat. A lot of people from Africa will be familiar with the mat, and God help you if you have any of the siblings that wet the bed. You still have to sleep on that mat. That is the background that I had before coming to Canada. I shared a room with 5 other siblings, and my mother did the best that she could to give us a better life. Coming to Canada was not a choice. That was the opportunity that came up, and I landed in Canada, and I'm grateful. And I got to Canada when I was 23 years old. And finally, at 23 years old, I now own my own bed and my own room. And fast forward, 2 or 3 years later, I landed my first real job in Canada. And I also want you to visualize this. After the background that I just described, right? And if I take you back a little bit, in that background, you can also visualize yourself as a 10-year-old with a tray of fried fish on your head that you have to sell every day. That was also me. I was that girl. I was that 10-year-old that had a tray of fried fish on my head that I had to go sell and bring the money back home. That was the background that I had. And coming to Canada, having my own room, having my own bed at the age of 23, I was just so grateful. And as I tried to struggle, which is, this is part of the immigrant story. Every single immigrant has that hustling spirit. It's the way we're raised. We're raised to fast forward to my first real job in Canada. And I want you to also visualize this. Your second day at a bank, one of the major banks that I work at. And my branch manager at the time called me into her office, and I won't share her name. Margaret, I understand you're Nigerian.
We keep losing you in
Yes.
between for some reason. Yeah. But it keeps coming back. So maybe it's the internet connection.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. In case it happens more frequently, I'll let you know.
Me now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, sorry about that. I don't know where you guys lost me from, but let's start from my first job in Canada. My first job was in Toronto. I live in St. Alberta right now. It was in Toronto. And I remember my branch manager calling me into our office, and she said, this is where I was. She said, Margaret, I understand you're in Nigeria, and I know that Nigerians are well known for fraudulent activities. And I want you to know that I'm watching you. I didn't know how to react to her when she said that. But again, it was my very first office real job in Canada, and that was the experience that I had. But fast forward to I would say maybe a year or more after that, I've also met a lot of amazing leaders that has helped me grow, helped me develop my careers. And what I come to realize is that in Canada, the values here are very, very different from what we are used to. As immigrants, our parents raised us to always fight, work hard, work hard, work hard. In Canada, they want you to work smart. In Canada, you're expected to have soft skills. Soft skills are the skills that most of us don't have. And I tell you guys, it took me a very long time to realize that I don't have it. I remember vividly when I was working at that same bank, and at this point I was a branch manager. And one of my peers said to me, she said, Margaret, I want to let you know that you still need to build character. And I was really angry. She said those words to me because I didn't get it. What do you mean I have to build character? I'm a branch manager. What she was trying to tell me was that there were some attributes that I had, that I still have, that was driving people away from me. And I will paint a picture for you guys. Because of that survivor spirit, that fighting through everything kind of attitude that I had and I came to Canada with, anytime somebody tells me no, or I was told something cannot be done, I will fight through the process rather than have a dialogue, have a conversation, or find ways to make it work. I will question everything. I will fight through everything because I want it done and I want it done right now. And of course, the way we're raised, right? We're raised to believe that we can achieve anything. And that's the spirit that we all bring with us as immigrants as well. So I had to unlearn some of the behaviors that I have in order to move forward and to progress in my career. And I later realized they are called soft skills. In Canada, the main difference that I've observed with growing up in Nigeria and coming here is that you have to be liked. For you to be promoted, for people to trust you, for people to want to work with you, they have to like you. I come to realize that nobody wants to work with anybody that they don't like or they are not comfortable with. But in the past, before I realized this, I would fight my way through everything. What do you mean I can't do this? What do you mean I can't do that? Why isn't this possible? Why isn't that possible? I didn't understand how to have a dialogue, how to have a natural conversation, how to really collaborate with people and make things happen. So those are some of the mistakes that I made. And I don't know if mistake is the right word, but those are some of the things that I needed to learn that I didn't realize at an earlier stage that I needed to learn. Being a top branch manager, I thought was good enough. Again, in my past banks that I work at, I thought being a top branch manager, having the best results was good enough for me to get promoted. But I can tell you guys for a fact, it was never good enough. It wasn't about how hard you were working. It wasn't about how great your result was. It's about, can people work with you? Are you the kind of person that Mina can recommend for a job? Or are you the kind of person that argues with Mina all the time? And arguing with somebody does not mean that you're not somebody people can work with. But with the Canadian culture and work environment, they generally don't like confrontation. When it's something that is positive, it will be yelled. People, they will talk about it. You will be praised. But in the Canadian work environment, if it's anything negative, they will say it silently. And this is why some people would think, oh, my colleagues are talking about me. These people are talking about me, because they are not comfortable coming out to have certain conversations with you because they don't want to hurt your feelings, or they don't want to come across as having confrontation with you. So when we talk about cultural differences, a lot of us immigrants come in here for a reason. We came here either because we want a better life for ourselves or for our children. We came here because we want a better economic situation. But whatever that situation is, I want to encourage each one of you that you should be curious. Be as curious as you can be. Learn as much as you can around you. Get a mentor. A mentor will help you move to the next level. A mentor will help you achieve certain goals that you're planning to achieve and you probably don't know how to get there. And I understand there's a lot of immigrants that will come into this country with a lot of experience. You come in and you have a lot of experience, you're probably at the top of your career, and suddenly you're in Canada, you have to start all over again. And maybe some of you might be looking for work for months. I want to encourage you. Don't get frustrated. Don't get discouraged. You will achieve your purpose. But it is very, very important as well that you open up your mind and get to meet people, have conversations, connect with people. Because I find that having a mentor, connecting with people, having an open mind helps you get ahead a little faster in this environment. So what I would like to do is pass it over to Mina so that we can take questions and I can explain a few things more to you. Like I said, I could talk about myself for 2 hours. I could talk to you about my journey in Canada and how I got here. But overall, I'll be very honest with you. I had a lot of challenges. I had a lot of struggles. It wasn't easy, but I'm here now. I'm here now. I'm in Canada. I'm a branch manager. I've been a branch manager for over 10 years, and I am grateful. And most importantly, I have my own bed and I have my own room. So I will open it up for you to ask me any questions that you want to ask me. There is no question that is stupid. Ask me anything about the work environment, anything about my journey, or anything that you're thinking that I can help you clarify to help you move to the next stage. Over to you, Mina.
Thank you so much, Margaret. So please type in your questions in the chat box and Margaret will be happy to answer those. Margaret, I will start with a question. So when we talk about adapting to the Canadian workplace environment, it confuses a lot of people. I myself am an immigrant, and the biggest challenge was people confuse personal culture to workplace culture. So a lot of times when I tell clients about, handshake or eye contact, they say it's not in my culture. So how do you adapt to the Canadian workplace culture and keep your personal culture separate from the professional culture?
So this is what I would say. When we come here, we came to Canada for a reason. And I know that it could be a challenge sometimes trying to merge both culture. There is something with a few African immigrants called power distancing. It's a situation where you are not allowed to, you can't look at an older person in the eye. You don't make eye contact because it's almost like a form of disrespect. You don't talk when your leaders are talking. And for a long time, a lot of people struggle with power distancing where they just want to do their job. They don't want to rock the boat. They don't want any trouble. However, in the Canadian work environment, it is very, very important that you use your voice. If you need to get a mentor, get a mentor. Find somebody around you that would help you with that skill set. Find somebody that will help you speak more. Somebody that will help you use your voice. Something that a lot of us also do when we get here is that we stay within our communities. And when we stay within our communities, we'll probably continue to do the same thing. So it is very, very important that you find mentors. And it's challenging if you're coming, and I'm not saying you should lose who you are. You can never lose who you are. Your culture, our culture is part of who we are, and we have to wear it with pride. At the same time, when we come to a new country and we're here to achieve a purpose, it is very, very important that we do the best that we can to learn a little more about the environment that we're in. If we're going to advance and get to the next level, we have to get a good understanding of the environment that we're living in. If the Canadian culture says, for example, if you go for an interview and you're not making eye contact, and I can tell you this happened to my husband a few times. He goes for interview and he's not looking at the interviewer, right? And he ends up not getting those jobs. Again, it's a skill set. Some people will have to unlearn what they know and learn what they need to learn. It is just very, very important that when you're talking to somebody, you make eye contact. When you are in a team environment, you contribute, you have conversations, you make sure that people around you know who you are. How do I recommend you for a job when I don't know you? If Mina and I work together, and every time Mina comes, Mina goes and just wants to stay with another person from her culture, and I don't know her as a leader, how do I recommend Mina for a promotion? It will be a challenge for me to recommend her because I don't know her. So it is very, very important, guys. Here in Canada, people want to definitely work with people that they know, they understand, and they like. And for people to know and understand you, you have to connect. You have to have conversations. You have to come out of your comfort zone, no matter how difficult it is. Over to you, Mina.
Thank you so much, Margaret. So the next question I have here is, how do you stay motivated when you have been rejected so many times?
Oh, Lord, that's, it's tough. When you're being rejected, it's almost like applying for so many jobs and you're not getting it. It is very important sometimes to take a step back. Why do you think you're being rejected? Are you asking from feedback? For example, when you go for an interview and you don't hear anything back, do you reach out to them to find out? And I understand sometimes the recruiter might, because they're trying to protect the company they work for, they might not tell you exactly what it is. And it comes back to what I was saying about getting a mentor. A mentor will help you understand the things that you don't understand about yourself. A mentor will help you see what you don't see on your resume that might be holding you back. It's difficult, it's challenging, and I understand it. It took my husband almost 3 years to find a job. Therefore, I definitely understand what it feels like to get rejected, especially when you have a family to feed. But I cannot tell you this enough. There is a job out there with your name on it. You just have to find it. You cannot give up. You have to keep going. But it's very, very important as well to make sure that you tailor your resume to every single job. In most of the jobs that you've done in the past, there will be something with that job, that opportunity or the experience that you've had that you'll be able to rephrase or update your resume to in order to show the experience that you have. Experience is way more valued here than the 2, 3, 4, 5 degrees that we immigrants come here with. So please don't be discouraged if you're feeling that sense of rejection over and over again. Don't be discouraged. You can only get what you want if you keep going.
Thank you so much, Margaret. So our next question is, how do we find a mentor who's willing to help us? I have tried contacting many people on LinkedIn for insights, but they normally do not respond. I do understand it's due to various reasons, but are there any organizations who help us to find a suitable mentor? Margaret will answer the mentor part, but I can tell you that there are various organizations and we are one of those. So please get in touch with your employment counselor and they'll find you a coach or mentor. But Margaret, you can talk more about how to find a mentor.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Mina. Organizations like yours have that opportunity. In fact, there's a few organizations that would reach out to me on LinkedIn because this is exactly what they do. There is a lot of organization out there that will help you with mentorship. And I'm curious to know with this individual, when this individual is connecting with people on LinkedIn, what are you saying? Because if I give you an example, people will send me a message and they will say, Margaret, can you be my mentor? Okay. It will be better if it's a little warmer than that. Hi, Margaret. I got the opportunity to review your profile and it aligns with my goal. There's something about your profile, something about you that aligns with what I'm looking for. Is it possible to have a quick chat with you? The chances are I will respond to that more than somebody that just comes and say, Margaret, can you be my mentor? I don't know who you are. Right? I don't know who you are. And mentorship takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of commitment from both the mentor and the mentee. So it's very, very important if you're going to reach out to people to make sure that you start very nicely. Try to get to know the person first. Say, hello, my name is so and so. I'm new to Canada. I noticed that you are a banker and you've been working in the bank for many years. I was also working in the bank in my country. Do you mind if I ask you a question or two? You might not even say the word mentor yet or mentorship yet. You can start with, can I ask you a question or two? Do you mind can you clarify this for me or can you clarify that for me? Then by the time the person gets to know you maybe a little bit more, you can now ask, do you mind maybe giving me an hour of your time in 2 weeks or in 3 weeks or whenever you have time? So sometimes it could be the way that we're asking, because in my own situation, I've had a few people that would just come, and I have a lot of people that I work with. So when somebody just comes and you ask, Margaret, can you be my mentor? Chances are I might respond to say, I'm sorry, at this time I'm not able to. But there is a way you can engage me in conversation that will pique my interest. So please don't give up, keep trying. There are so many people that I know on LinkedIn that are willing to be a mentor.
Thank you so much, Margaret. So the next one says, thank you so much, Margaret, for joining us. When you came to Canada, did you join any programs at any nonprofit organizations or any other programs? Please share with us what you did to achieve your goals.
Thank you. That's a nice question. When I came to Canada, I had no idea what a computer is. That was 20 years ago. Yeah, 20 years ago I was 23. I had no idea what computer is. I learned how to use a computer here in Canada. And yes, I went to an organization similar to the one Mina is at, Immigration Services, and I learned how to use a computer for the first time. I want to encourage you, there's a lot of organizations out there, a lot of non-for-profit organizations out there, including Immigration Services Canada, that would help you with a lot of skill set that you're looking for. So yes, I did attend one of those non-for-profit organizations to learn how to use a computer. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Margaret. And I love you called us Immigration Services Canada, because that's our vision. We don't want to be just Immigrant Services Calgary. We want to be Immigrant Services Canada. Thank you so much. Next question. Haider, do you want to comment on this?
No, it's like she's setting the stage for us to do this at a larger event. Next time, Margaret, you're going to be speaking in the Newcomers here. You'll be speaking to an audience of thousands of people who are inspired through your story. Such a pleasure to have you. I mean, that's great. I had one more question, but I'll type it in here. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Haider. So everybody else that's joined in, I just want to say Haider Hassan is our CEO and he's joined this event. So thankful to him for joining us on this event, because Margaret is so inspirational. We all wanted to hear what she has to say. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to type in the chat box.
Okay, so if there's no other question yet, I can share a little bit about the Canadian culture compared to us as immigrants. So if I give you an example, when I was at a particular bank, I had a gentleman who is from Nigeria, and I'm in Nigeria. And he was working at a different branch. So one day he called me and he said, Margaret, my branch manager is very mean to me. My branch manager is very mean to me. Can I come and work at your branch? So I asked him, I said, tell me what the situation is. So he explained all sorts of things that were being done to him, that was happening to him. So I said, okay, I'll see what I can do. Of course, if there's anything I can do to help, I always want to help. So I brought this gentleman to my branch. Of course, and after this, I had a conversation with the branch manager. Apparently, this gentleman works at a plaza, at a branch where it's a plaza. So he will go to the president Safeway, to the Safeway store there and ask for a discount. He will demand a discount because he's their neighbor and he works at X bank. I almost called the name of the bank. And he works at that bank. And the manager of that store will go report him. Things like that were some of the things that he was doing, some of those behaviors that were not acceptable. But in Nigeria, though, right? In Nigeria, it might have been acceptable. Maybe he thinks it's a joke where you go to your neighbor and you say, you know, we're neighbors, we work here together, give me a discount. Right? It's a cultural difference, it's a cultural thing. So when I finally brought this person to my branch, what the kind of behavior he started exhibiting is this. He would look at a lady and say, oh, your eyes are so beautiful. He would look at somebody and say, if I was not married, I will make you my wife. Even I, that I was his manager, there was a day that I wore a red dress to work, and this gentleman said to me, he said, Margaret, you look so good, and you know, your backside has changed a little bit. Oh my God, Mina. I was so embarrassed. So I put him in my office and I said, listen, here in Canada, there are certain things you just don't say. People would take that as a form of harassment. I had the conversation, but this person did not stop. One day he grabbed our receptionist on the arm. Like it was so tight that you could see the mark. You can't pull somebody like that. I had another conversation with him. Another day, there was a younger girl in the branch at the time, and he constantly talked about her eyes. And the girl was so uncomfortable. I've also had that conversation with him. But of course, he was not changing. Again, what I see is that he meant no harm, but it was so difficult for him to adjust to the Canadian work environment. Maybe back home in Nigeria, those things he was doing were probably not a big deal. But here, it's a big deal. And I've had that conversation with him so many times, but he was still finding it difficult to adapt. And the final straw was one day when he went to the lunchroom and he put his hand on the girl's thigh. What he didn't realize, though, is that will be considered sexual harassment in the work environment. So I had to let him go eventually. So those are some of the cultural differences that we have. Again, if that were to maybe happen in Nigeria, maybe it wouldn't be a big deal. But here, it's a big deal. If you're telling somebody they have beautiful eyes and they're not comfortable, you might want to hold back a little bit and stop saying the same thing to that person. The moment they say they are not comfortable with a certain conversation, you want to stop having that conversation for sure. Another thing that I notice here as well is that the fact that a Canadian is smiling at you, having coffee with you, does not necessarily mean they are your best friends or you're automatically friends. Don't get me wrong, I've met a lot of amazing, and I have a lot of friends, lots of amazing Canadian friends. But the fact that someone is having coffee with you or talking to you or smiling at you does not mean you're best friends and you can begin to discuss your religion and things like that. There's certain things that crosses the line with them. And the reality is that they might not tell you. They might not tell you. Someone like myself, if you say something or you rub me wrong way, I'll tell you right away. I'll say, Mina, stop it. I'll say, Mina, stop it. I'm not comfortable with that behavior. But somebody else might not want to offend you. Therefore, they won't tell you. Another part of it is that we have to understand that Canadians are very, very polite people. Polite enough to not want to hurt your feelings. And I think what we continue to work on both sides of the culture is to find a middle ground. Because I know a lot of us immigrants would appreciate it if somebody just comes to you and say, hey, Margaret, you said this or you looked at me this way and I don't like it. right? That's the real day if everything was perfect. But really, in a work environment, a lot of people will not come to you to tell you said something or whatnot. So it's very, very important that we are conscious, like very, very aware. You have to be aware of your environment. Do you have any question, Mina?
Yes, I have a few. So the first one, it says, I had an opportunity to look at your profile on LinkedIn. You had chance to become a branch manager at various financial institutions. I also learned during this meeting you were a branch manager in your home country too. If you had a chance to work in a non-profit organization or corporate, what would be your choice be and why?
Well, I never worked one day in Nigeria before. I was a medical student before I got here. But my first branch manager job was here in Canada. And I can tell you, ATB is an amazing organization. If there's anything I can tell you, and you know from my profile, I've worked in a lot of banks and I have a lot of experience in management. ATB is just different. At ATB, there's a lot of work-life balance. ATB is the kind of bank that I can walk up to the CEO and just pack up a conversation. In the Big Five, you can't even talk. The power distance it's so huge that you can walk to a VP to just pack up a conversation like that. The fear, there's a level of fear that you would have. ATP has just been so good to me. It's been an amazing bank. I love what I do. I don't know, maybe ever in the future, if I choose to work in a non-for-profit, maybe in a volunteer capacity, absolutely. Anything that I can do to give back, I would love to. For now, I'm just very happy where I am. But thank you.
Okay, thank you. And actually, two of us, me and Haider, are both from corporate world, and we switched to non-profit here. Haider comes from the banking world, and he's our CEO now. And I think it's an experience. It's your choice also. Sometimes, maybe back in times I loved working for the corporate sector, but now I love doing what I'm doing. I feel it's more meaningful to me. So it totally is your choice.
And you know what, and to your point, right? For me at this stage, right, I've been around for a long time. I think I've been in the banking industry for over 16, 17 years now. And everything that I do now is about impact. What can I do to impact another person's life? What can I do to give back? What can I do to make sure that the next immigrants coming after me do not have most of the challenges that I had, right? This is where I am right now in my career. I want to be able to give back. I want to do work that are meaningful, impactful. And it doesn't matter what that position looks like, as long as I'm able to give back to the community. I'm always very open-minded, but most importantly, I'm very happy right now at ATB. That question.
Thank you, Margaret. So next one is, how did you handle the controversial feedback from your initial manager, fraud story, which you talked about? What kind of mindset did you develop to overcome that obstacle?
And it's an unconscious bias, right? I mean, most of you will agree with me that 2020 will be remembered for what COVID-19 did to us. And it can also be remembered for the year that anti-Black systemic racism might come to an end in Canada. With the experience that I had at that job, I think is just an unconscious bias, because it was in Toronto. It was in an area where there's a lot of immigrants. And I think there's a lot of Nigerian immigrants in that area as well. And we cannot paint all the walls with the same brush, right? There are amazing, successful Nigerians in every corners of the world. And Nigerians are well known for being well educated. So when she said that initially, because I was new, I was a little scared. In fact, for a while, I wasn't comfortable dealing with Nigerians at that time because I didn't want to get in trouble with her. She said she was watching me. So I was worried about making mistakes and things like that. So I ended up leaving the branch. This is a manager that has been with that bank for over 35 years. If I were to go to HR to report her, I don't think that would have turned out well for me. So all I did was put my head down, do my job, keep quiet, and don't rock the boat. And the problem with that kind of behavior is that you will not grow. You will not grow because you're not using your voice. People don't know who you are. But her actions and the things she said to me affected me at that branch because I didn't reach up. I didn't go as far as I could. Most of the branches that I've managed, right, we've exceeded most of our goals because of my community. And if I'm not able to work with my community, how do we meet this goal, right? So as long as I was at that branch, I did nothing at that point because I was scared. And this is why I'm speaking out. This is why I'm helping immigrants so that you can understand that you do not have to be afraid. You do not have to be worried. You will find yourself in that kind of a situation, speak up. If you go to HR and HR is doing nothing about it, go ahead to an executive and have that conversation. Make as much noise as you possibly can until somebody hears you. If I give you another example, I remember the first apartment that I rented. The owner of the apartment, this one is a little bit of a touchy story. The owner of the apartment went to a party, came back with her boyfriend. I was in my room, and close to maybe early hours of the morning, I noticed somebody, there was no key on the door. Somebody opened my door. And of course, I slept with a jeans. I was new and I was still scared, considering where I was coming from. So somebody opened I opened my eye, and it's a naked man in front of me. And he's just tiny me. Most of you have seen me before. I'm a very tiny woman. So I screamed. The moment I screamed, the woman, my landlady, came in and said, "Relax, he's just playing with you." And I said, "No, I'm going to call the police." He said, "If you call the police, you'll be deported." So at that point, I became scared. I didn't sleep there that night. Nothing happened to me. But if I knew better, if only I knew better, I would have just called the police anyway, reported both of them. But I was told I might be deported. The same way the manager told me, "I'm watching you." Is that fear of retribution, the fear of the unknown, the fear of what might happen that you don't know. And this is why I'm using my voice to help as many immigrants as I can help as they are coming in. If you meet somebody and they say certain things to you, you have to connect with people. I think that's the main thing. Because if you're connecting with people, you know a lot of people, you have friends around you, both Canadians and those from your country, and you're having conversations with them. When you find yourself in a situation, you will know exactly what to do. I didn't have that at the time. And I think that's why I'm here having this conversation. That's why Immigrant Services in Calgary is also having an event like this in order to educate.
Thank you so much, Margaret. You're really brave to share these stories with everybody. The next question is, Canadians are very polite, and that often is very difficult to understand what they mean. Looking back at your history, what would be your advice to the younger immigrant staff?
This is what I will tell you. If only I knew this 20 years ago. You have to speak, talk, have conversation. If I give you an example, right? If we're talking about unconscious biases, let's keep in mind with everything going on in the world right now, a lot of Canadians in the offices are very, very careful. Nobody wants to say anything to offend anybody. And it's a little bit uncomfortable for them as well to have these conversations. We have to be brave ourselves. We need to find a way to get them involved, have conversations. So for example, if somebody in the office is not telling you something, if you feel that something is wrong, approach the person. This is what I would say. Approach the person and say, "By the way, Mina, I noticed that you looked at me a certain way the other time. I hope everything is okay. Is this something that I said?" Don't forget, we are raised this way. We're raised to speak. We're raised to confront every situation as they happen, bang on. They are raised to be very polite. They don't want to hurt your feelings. Once we know and we understand this, there is nothing wrong in taking the bold step and saying, "Mina, is everything okay? Do you want to talk about this? I hope I didn't offend you when I say A, B, C, Z. I hope I didn't offend you when I said I love to bring fish to work. I hope you were not offended when I was eating that fish in the lunchroom and it was smelling in the whole lunchroom, right? I think the important thing is for us to also take the bold step and have those conversations. Let people around you know that it's okay. I will not be offended if you call me a Black woman. I will not be offended if you tell me, Margaret, I can't get your accent. Speak slowly. I won't be offended. I think sometimes it's important to set the stage. Let them know who you are. Don't forget, at the end of the day, this is how you're going to get recommended for another job. This is how you're going to get promotion, because they will say, you know what? Mina approached me. Mina told me this about her. Mina told me that about her. I'm not going to say this because I know Mina doesn't like it. But I'm not a mind reader. If you don't tell me you don't like it, I will know you don't like it. And I get it. Maybe they could also approach you and tell you, but they don't want to offend you. This is what I have seen based on my experience. They don't want to offend you. And if you're able to walk up to them, introduce yourself, tell them your story, I can assure you they will appreciate it.
Thank you so much. So the next one is about recruiters. So how to deal with a recruiter when they say you're overqualified? Is it necessary to remove some degrees from your resume?
I don't normally advise people to. Don't forget, you work so hard to get those degrees. Those degrees are part of who you are. Those degrees are your jacket of pride, and you have to wear them with grace. You earned it, right? And for them to get you, don't forget, the recruiters, if they even call you for an interview, there is something about your resume that they saw. That's why you got the call in the first place. Therefore, for me personally, I won't say remove your degrees. If somebody looks at your resume, they love what they see, they will call you. But if you feel that you're applying for a job that is maybe a little lower, do a cover letter, right? I would say do a cover letter and explain in the cover letter, yes, I have 2 degrees in XYZ, XYZ. However, I am open to starting afresh. I'm open to starting from this level in order to learn and work my way up. Again, that's just what I would do. Somebody else may give you a different response, but for me, I will not take anything out of my resume, but I will put in a cover letter just to explain why I'm applying for that job.
Thank you, Margaret. Thank you. So the next one is, any best practices on how to network virtually during COVID-19?
And I think it's a lot. LinkedIn is a very, very good resource. Like, it's a very good place to connect with people. And I know, like, a lot of people that I connect with on LinkedIn most of the time respond, and they don't know who I am yet. I want to encourage each one of you to reach out to as many people as you can. Every day, reach out. You have to reach out. You need that network in order for you to find the kind of job that you're looking for. Somebody will say, you know, if a job comes up in some offices, there are some jobs that will be posted and it won't be public. Somebody within a particular office could say, hey, by the way, I know somebody whose name is Mina who has an experience. Connect with as many people as you can on LinkedIn, people in the same industry that you're looking to get in. And please, when you connect with people, don't automatically connect and say, I'm looking for a job. Don't automatically connect and say, can you recommend me for this? It's very, very important that you spend a little bit of time. Let's put the word human being back into our conversation. If you were the one and you have a busy life and somebody is reaching out to you to say, can you recommend me for this job? And you don't know them, it's your name on the line. So it's very, very important that you try to start by having a regular conversation with the person. Hello, Mina, how are you? My name is James. I'm new to Canada. Do you mind if I have a word with you? Do you mind? Do you have time? Or is it okay if I message you next week? I just have a question in regards to careers in Canada. The person might respond back to you on time rather than maybe asking for a job upfront or asking for mentorship upfront. I hope that helps a little bit.
Thank you so much, Margaret. So the next one is, Margaret, you're volunteering as a president at ATB Black Team Members Network. How did you approach to that opportunity?
That's a good question, but it was a lot of work, I have to tell you. I believe in change. I believe in equal rights. I believe in representation. I believe in the importance of my children looking up and seeing somebody that looks like themselves at the top of an organization. I'm looking forward to the day where my son will be a CEO of an organization. A lot of organizations right now do not have a lot of people of color, either on their board or with their senior leadership. And that was what I wanted to achieve when I wanted to start the network. I actually started the network myself. So I reached out to every single Black employees that we have at ATB, and I started a meeting. But before I did that, I reached out to a lot of our executives, and they were so receptive. I can't be more grateful, to be honest with you. What was done at ATB and the kind of support that I got, I don't believe I would have gotten that at any bank that I've worked at. And I tell you, I've worked at all the banks except BMO. ATB has just created a psychologically safe environment for me to do that. So I reached out to my leaders. They gave me the go-ahead. I called most of the Black team members. We call team members instead of employees. I called most of them. I had a meeting. I set up executive team. It was a lot of work, but you know what? I am so glad. I'm happy that I was part of it, and I'm happy that I helped get it started. But it only happened because our executives were very, very supportive and open-minded.
Thank you so much, Margaret. This was wonderful. Anybody else has any other questions? Please feel free to type them in the chat box.
And why we wait for that? I want to continue to let people know that connections is very, very important. There is a bank that I worked at that I had a lot of issues with a particular person there. Unconscious bias is real. Sometimes I don't like to use the word racist because I don't believe people want to be racist intentionally. I don't believe people don't want to understand your culture or our culture intentionally. I think it's very, very important that we learn to use our voices. You have to use your voice anywhere you work, anywhere you are. If you use your voice with respect, people will listen to you. If you're not using your voice, it might be challenging for people to know who you are. When you're looking for a job, it might be a little more difficult. The particular organization, the particular bank that I was talking about, it was just challenging sometimes for some people to handle your success level or to see you thrive. Some people can't handle it, and they could give you maybe one or two problems based on that. But if you hold on to your value, and that's what I did at that particular organization, I held on to my value. I did not allow, because sometimes, right, some of us want to conform to what the work environment wants us to conform to. I'm saying adapt, but don't lose who you are. Sometimes some people they don't even want to deal with people at all from their country. You still have to deal with people from your country. You still have to be who you are, be authentic. At the same time, learn a little bit, learn as much as you can about the work environment where you're working, but still don't lose who you are, don't lose your values. It's amazing how we always want, in the work environment, we expect people to adapt to everything we do. What we're working on right now is to meet middle way. We want you to adapt to the Canadian work environment. At the same time, we still want you to keep your culture. We want you to keep your authentic self. It all comes down to having conversations and just using your voice. If you let people know who you are, if they know what you like, what you don't like, how you like to work, I believe strongly that people will work with you. So please, anywhere that you work, anywhere that you are, make sure that you let people know who you are. That's how you get to adapt to a new environment.
Thank you, Margaret. So the next question that we have here is, back in my home country, LinkedIn is not much used. As connecting and networking is new for me, I feel that when I approach people on LinkedIn, that person would feel that I want some favors or a job. As you are on the other side of the table now, how do people feel when immigrants approach them?
You know what? I'll be honest with you. A lot of people that I know and I deal with on LinkedIn are very, very receptive. A lot of people wants to help. I'm telling you, yes, there is that 1% that don't want to, but a lot of people that I've met on LinkedIn who wants to work with immigrants, who wants to help you. Yes, maybe in our country, maybe in your country, LinkedIn was not used as much, but I'm telling you, Canadians, a lot of Canadians are very, very polite. And most of them are even getting more intentional about helping people, especially immigrants. I want to encourage you. Don't think you're asking for a favor. You're not asking for a favor. You need help, you have to get it. If you don't seek help, you won't get it. If you don't go approach people, talk to people, people will not just come to you because they can't read your mind. They don't know what you want. But keep reaching out. Don't think you're disturbing them. Like I said earlier, don't go there asking for a job immediately or asking to be mentored. Approach somebody, talk about yourself, ask about them, try to start an actual conversation before you ask them for a job or maybe for a mentorship opportunity. So I can tell you honestly and for a fact that there are lots of people on LinkedIn that are willing to help immigrants.
Thank you, Margaret. And I agree to that. We have reached out to people on LinkedIn. I reached out to Margaret on LinkedIn, and she was willing to do this for us. So definitely a lot of people are willing to help. So our next question is, hi, Margaret. Thank you for spending your time with us and enlightening us. My question is regarding entering a different industry from a background. What are some recommendations for us looking at jobs in the new industry? Should we stay in our own industries instead?
I would say be open-minded, right? Have an open mind. When I came to this country, because I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a doctor. I was a medical student. Here I am. I'm a branch manager, right? And I tell you, I still think about it. I tell myself, maybe when I'm 55, I'll go back to medical school and then just work with Doctors Without Borders as volunteers. Have an open mind. You will be surprised what you will find. Sometimes when you come to a new country and you're trying to get into your field, you might not get it right away. But if you don't get it right away and that's where your heart is, I believe in faith. I'm a woman of faith. I believe in faith. And I believe if it's where you're meant to be, you will get there. But have an open mind. Take opportunities that come your way. A lot of organizations have a lot of different departments that you can get into to help you achieve your goal. But if you say no to the opportunity in front of you, you might be missing out on that opportunity to achieve what you want to achieve. So I would encourage you to have an open mind and accept the job that you have right now. At least you're working. Then it's easier for you to move to a different department or get the kind of job you're looking for.
Thank you, Margaret. And I am one of the examples. I changed my careers when I came to Canada. I wanted to do something different. So I took courses in that discipline. I wanted to get into supply chain. So I took supply chain courses and I worked in supply chain and enjoyed it really, really well. And then later on, I switched to nonprofit sector. I had taken courses in change management and HR, and they came in handy for this one. So I think if you take some courses, that helps you.
Absolutely, it does. I know that a lot of people come in, and as soon as they come in, they start taking courses immediately. I'm not a big fan of you incurring debt immediately, because people come in, they take student loan, and then they go back to school, they come out of school, they don't get a job quickly. That is part of my husband's story, right? He came here, already has his own degree, went back to school, again, got another degree 3 years before he found the job. And we had that student loan waiting for us, and we had kids. So we struggled a bit for like 3 years. We had to sell our house and things like that in order to get back on our feet. And it could be a different story for other people, But I would encourage you to try the best that you can to find a job. At least you're working. Then you can take courses like Mina said. You can take courses and then kind of take it from there. But it's very, very important that you find a job first. Start looking for maybe something along the line, along your career, the career you really want, and then start taking those courses. At least that way you won't get too many debts.
Thank you, Margaret. I have a question. What is your take on transitional jobs? So a lot of times new immigrants come and they are not able to find a job in their own sector, but they have to pay their bills. So they take some transitional jobs. And with some countries, they do not want to get into those transitional jobs because they're looked down upon. So being in Canada, what is your take on those?
I tell you, if I tell you I used to work in a plastic factory, you might not believe me. I used to work in a plastic factory. I used to work as a personal support worker. Margaret, would do any job that puts food on the table. And I have a lot of respect for anybody that will do any job to put food on the table as long as you're not doing anything criminal, right? So sometimes for us as immigrants, it's all about the survivor, right? Who cares what somebody else thinks? Who's going to open your pot, your cooking pot at home to know what is in there? The important thing is that you're going to work, you're putting bacon on the table for your family every day. The important thing is to be doing something right now. Take any job you see. It's not written on anybody's forehead. I've heard about a cleaner that eventually becomes the CEO of an organization. If he didn't take the cleaning job, he probably won't become the CEO of that company. I'm sure along the line, he will probably have gone back to school, taking some courses while he's getting experience. So I would strongly encourage you, don't discount any opportunity. Most people that you see up there have their own story. Like I told you a lot of stories about myself. Everybody has a story. Nobody got there in one day. You have to start somewhere. Take the job that you get now and begin to work towards your goal. That's the advice I would give. Back to you, Mina.
Thank you, Margaret. I think we have a very big example here. Haider is our CEO, and Haider's first job was flipping burgers. So
now I know Haider.
I made the best burgers, and I still have amazing barbecuing skills. And I was at Harvey's. I was actually no. I started off as a fry boy. I got promoted to head chef in those days, and I got a white chef's coat. So yeah, so I got promoted.
That's amazing. And look at the amazing story. Here you are today, running this company and doing an amazing job. Who would have thought?
Seriously, I had no. If you had asked me 10 years ago, I mean, I wish that I had this forum, Margaret, that I could actually hear you speak, because my journey, my suffering would have ended 5 years sooner.
I am so glad you're heading this company because you're doing an amazing job. And that's a very inspirational example for everyone on this call to listen to, because I know a lot of people that will say, McDonald's, I will never work there. I worked at McDonald's too. So see, we've all been there.
There you go. I mean, you learn how to handle conflict there, right? Because when people were throwing nasty burgers back at me, complaining, we were learning how to diffuse to make them happy. So some good training I reflect on even 20 years later.
Yeah, customer service you're learning, right? Customer service.
Yeah, back to your point of the soft skills you talked about. So that's really enjoyed this presentation. Absolutely. Good job, Margaret, and thanks, Meenakshi, again for organizing.
Thank you, Margaret. I have one last question, though I know we are on time, but one last question. Margaret, what's your next goal?
You know what? Right now, honestly, what I really want is to help my current organization move the needle on the conversation and the dialogue we're having now about representation for people of color. And I am so grateful that a lot of our executives are very receptive and they are doing everything they can to work with me on this project. So that's the main goal that I have right now on the project that I'm working on. I can't wait to have people of color in a lot of positions where we're well represented, right? I want a situation where our kids, our immigrant children, where we will look back, right? Me now, when we're grandmas, we look back and we see lots of immigrants in a position of power. So right now, I'm laying down the foundational work for that, and I'll see how that goes. Then I'll see where that takes me.
Thank you so much, Margaret. There's a lot of thank yous here, and people are saying what an inspirational story, Margaret, and people are very inspired by this. And Haider, there's a comment here for you. Your wife must be very happy because you are a good cook now. You became the head chef, so somebody said that. There's a lot of thank yous here. So anybody that wishes to connect with Margaret, she's on LinkedIn. Margaret Adekunle is her name. So please connect with her on LinkedIn. And thank you so much, Margaret, for your insights and this session. We are really, really thankful to you. Thank you so much for doing this session for us.
It's a pleasure anytime. And I'm going to take Haider up on that offer he gave me. I'm thinking about it.
Awesome. Okay. I hope nobody else has any other question because it's time. But if you have any other questions for Margaret, she is on LinkedIn, but just don't send her a question saying like, can you be my mentor?
You know what, guys? I want to encourage each one of you, connect with me. I'm happy to connect with you at any time. The same way you connect with me, connect with anybody else on LinkedIn. Margaret Adekunle is the name. Look me up on LinkedIn. If you're not on LinkedIn, connect. I would love to connect with you.
Margaret, thank you very much for today.
Thank you. Anyone else has any other question?
I had one request, Meenakshi. If we can ask a few of the colleagues here to turn on the camera, maybe we can do one of your regular screenshots.
So let's do. Everybody, please turn on your cameras, but keep your microphones on mute because it makes a lot of noise. But turn on your cameras.
And what we'll do is we'll take a picture to capture this great moment. And one of the best moments, I think, with Margaret's quote, your job is waiting with your name on it. So I think when you get your job with your name on it, you can look back to this moment and celebrate that, you know what, this is where you came from. Because I think it's just a matter of time that your job is just like waiting around the corner, as Margaret said. So kudos to you, all of you. And then Margaret, again, she's really popular on LinkedIn. She's a celebrity. So hopefully she can also promote the screenshot. And if you can tag us, Margaret, I think, you actually carry a lot of influence. You always show up in my feeds. So I think then indirectly, we're also promoting all the great newcomers that are on this call today and sort of maximize the impact. Thank you so much.
Sounds good.
Can everybody please turn on your cameras? Pascal, Chibuzo, Ellie. I have these people on my screen. Gazim. Can everybody please turn on your cameras so that we can take a picture?
Do we have to say cheese?
That will be good. Or burger.
Or cheeseburger. While people are turning on the cameras, I can flip a burger in the air. It's actually not a joke. I can do it with my eyes closed, and it can flip 3 or 4 times. And it will land on the spatula.
Wow. Pascal.
I hope you don't regret telling her that story.
No, because now I've become a good pancake flipper, right? That's
okay. With the kids, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah. Haider is, I do not know how he juggles everything, but he has 2 little ones and he juggles this position and then he's everywhere. I don't know how you do it, Haider. I'm really amazed at that. And so, yeah, super happy to have you as our leadership.
Margaret, as long as people like Margaret exist in this world, it energizes you, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
You're kind. You're very kind.
All right. Are you ready for the picture?
We are ready. I still see Maribel and Pascal and Ellie on my screen, but the cameras are not on.
That's okay. You can Photoshop them.
Perfect. Okay. So 3, 2, 1. Say cheese.
Cheese.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for attending, and thank you, Margaret, for doing this for all the newcomers, because this is amazing. This is what they need. This is what they need. They need to understand not everybody started from where they are right now. You grow, but it takes a lot of effort to do this.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
There's Pascal now. Do you want one more picture, Pascal? Your camera was not turned on. Now,
maybe next time we can give advance notice to maybe dress up, so when the LinkedIn post goes out, it's like job interview ready, newcomers, best in class, you know.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much, everybody, to that attended, and thank you, Margaret, for this presentation. It was wonderful. We are really grateful to you, because newcomers will benefit immensely from this. They will learn. They have learned so much. I have learned so much. So definitely for a newcomer, it's really great.
It's a pleasure. Anytime, just reach out.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks again, guys. Take care.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Have a good day.